Welcome back to another episode of the Outsider Sports Baseball Podcast. Corey, Jason, Ben Mandel, John Pauline, Dylan, Mel. April's going to be May soon. First month of the season, pretty much in the books. Teams that we saw starting off slow, heating up. Teams that we thought would have been World Series contenders are the third worst team in baseball. The Rockies getting ready to give the 2024 White Sox a run for their money. A lot of things going. But the first thing I want to kind of start off talking about, guys, I don't know if you guys have watched the Red Sox documentary from last year or at least seen clips, but the stuff with Jarren Duran is pretty heavy. And without getting really too much into the weeds on that, I kind of want to talk into what happened this past weekend with him. So on Sunday against Cleveland, in Cleveland, Duran kind of got into it with a fan in the stands. Now, the fan was supposedly yelling at Duran about his recently revealed suicide attempts. And security came over, took care of it. The umpire was holding Duran back. His team, Rafael Cedeno, was holding him back. But what type of punishment should we see levied to fans that kind of feel that they're protected, that they can say anything they want?
This is an easy ban for life for me. I mean, we've seen fans banned for life for less, whether it's seeing how long they could stay at the stadium and kind of trolling a little bit, interference in the outfield. I believe from the World Series, the fan who interfered with Mookie Betts' catch was banned for life. So this person should get a perma ban from every MLB stadium, not just Fenway. At the end of the day, these are people. And just because they're famous doesn't mean you could just say whatever you want to them. You know, you can't walk into somebody else's job and say what that guy said and get away with it. So at the end of the day, I think that's a perma ban.
Yeah, right there with you, Dylan.
Yeah, perma ban. And I mean, I'm not sure what type of legal action you could take. It's definitely a form of harassment that goes beyond the scope of what's expected in a public setting.
I think it'd be really tough to get harassment charges there. I mean, I'm not like a lawyer. I think a lot of that would probably just fall under First Amendment rights because the person did kind of say it to Duran in a public setting. It wasn't Duran's private home or anything. It's his place is business, but
right.
The same way that if you walk into a coffee shop and you tell the Starbucks barista something negative, it's not necessarily harassment if it's a one-time deal.
You just kind of get thrown out and then
allowed
back in, and then you're just now if you come back and do it again,
then you get to harassment.
I think you can get the harassment thing, but I think if it's like a one-time thing, I feel like
I also think the fan could easily argue if Duran was arguing back with them that it wasn't one-sided.
Yeah, I don't really think there could be harassment. I think it's definitely you got to look at all avenues, just because of how disgusting and like. I've heard my fair share of terrible things at sporting events. I remember back in, I think it was 2018, the Yankees played the A's in the wild card game. And Stephen Piscotty was with Oakland at the time. He was traded from St. Louis to the A's to be closer to his mother, who had, I believe it was ALS. And there was this one Yankee fan who was screaming about Piscotty's mother for like a good half inning before like the whole fans in the whole section started yelling at him. They basically bullied him, and security removed him. So, and I think something similar happened too, because the rest of the story goes that the fans in the section of that fan in the Cleveland Red Sox game went and they kind of pointed him out to security and was kind of yelling at him to leave, and he took off running and disappeared into the concourse. Now, obviously, there's cameras everywhere. They know what you look like, facial recognition. They'll find out who you are. They'll put your picture on blast. Anybody know this guy? But I just don't understand what possesses somebody, even a couple drinks in, to start talking about and yelling this type of vile stuff.
I mean, I've always been of the belief that anything like that just makes you more of who you are and makes you more confident in showing people who you are. So I'm not afraid to say it. That guy is just a grade A scumbag. And whether or not Duran's a good guy, a bad guy, I don't know. But if you're willing to just openly say that to somebody in that setting because they play for a team that you don't like, that's all I need to know.
Now, moving off of that, before I did mention a team that we kind of, or at least I kind of wrote for dead, that's making kind of a resurgence. That's the Atlanta Braves. I wrote them off, said they were cooked. They started off 1-8, and since then they're 11-7. They're 12-15 now. It's April 28th as we record this. 12-15 is not the worst place to be in order to make a playoff push. That is, not the greatest spot, but you are definitely right in the thick of it as you get healthier. They brought back outfielder Eddie Rosario, playoff legend for the Braves. Dropped down Jared Kelenic, who I really thought was going to have a much better career than he has had at this point, especially being the focal point of the Edwin Diaz trade with the Mets and the Mariners. Now I think we can confidently say who won that trade. But Kelenic not becoming a Met killer, Kelenic not even being a consistent big leaguer. The Braves are at a tipping point, I think. Acuna's not back yet, but he should be back at some point in the next 8 weeks, I would say. You got, Strider, who's hurt again. You have Sale, who's had his issues. They're a good team that just seems to be falling apart and being barely held together. Do you guys think that the Braves are going to be able to hold together long enough until they get healthy, or could we see this come apart at the seams?
I don't think so. I think the first month and the injuries that they already have is going to be what ultimately does them in. The NL West, aside from the Rockies, who may, again, be the worst team in baseball. I'm surprised we're saying that in back-to-back years, but there's 4 really good teams in that division. The Giants, who are currently winning that division, the Dodgers and the Padres, who are right behind them, but clearly the top 2 wild card seeds at this point. And then you have the Reds, the Phillies, and the Diamondbacks all tied for 3rd in wild card standings. And still ahead of the Braves, you have the Brewers and Nationals after that. Now, I think it's certainly pretty likely that Atlanta is going to pass Washington at some point, just in terms of talent. And hell, they might even catch the Brewers, but there's still 3 additional teams that you'd have to pass there in Cincinnati, Philadelphia, and Arizona that I just don't see happening. Their best hope is that the NL West eventually beats up on each other so strong that those teams all hover around the 80 to 90 win mark. But with how good the Dodgers and Padres are and the level of baseball that the Giants have started the season at, I just don't see 2 of those teams falling below the 90-plus win mark, and I don't think Atlanta's getting there.
Hey, it is too early to close up the NL East. This is an Atlanta team that has won this division so many times recently. And look, they still have all their games against the Mets. They still have I'm pretty sure they have all their games against the Phillies, if I'm not mistaken. So, look, there is a lot of time still to make up ground. They still have to get Acuna back. They've been doing it without Strider. Figure Strider comes back at some point. By no means has Atlanta ever been written off in my book, especially not for the division.
Well, I just think the way that the Mets are playing baseball right now, I think it's safe to say that over the last couple of weeks, they've been the best team in all of baseball. They have the best run differential. They're the only team to reach 20 wins currently. They just put up 19 runs today. And the Phillies are in a cold stretch, but they're still ahead of Atlanta. And we're going to talk about the Phillies a little later, but the offense isn't going to stay this cold forever. I think it is a tall hill to climb. I guess it's possible, but we're already talking about a Braves team that is bit by the injury bug. That's if they can get healthy, that's also assuming that nobody else along the way gets hurt. I think it's very much so more likely that the Braves the whole season kind of feels like they're trying to play catch up in a really competitive NL. They just never do.
And then, I kind of mentioned earlier also the Rockies. Dylan, you kind of brought them up a little bit too. The Rockies have 4 wins.
What are they on pace for? 24?
Yeah. Now, the White Sox last year were the worst team ever. But the Rockies this year are giving them a run for their money. I personally think the Rockies will win more than 24 games. I know that's probably a hot
Yeah,
take.
if we set the over under at 24, what if we set the over under at 34 and a half?
Imagine if the Mets signed Chris Bryant to that contract. The backlash. I mean, Chris Bryant is just gone in the void at this point.
I mean, he's hurt now, another back
He
issue.
is retired.
He's retired.
He's been hurt the last 2 years. It's just done. This is even when he was healthy, just not the same player.
I'm glad Charlie Blackmon got out of there before this. He deserves better.
Like a lot of them do. Ryan McMahon deserves better.
They won't trade him to the Yankees.
It doesn't have to be the Yankees. I mean, it should be, but it doesn't
should
have
be.
to
He's
be.
the one piece they're not going to trade. He's viewed as a franchise cornerstone.
They don't have a franchise.
From what I've heard, he is the one player they do not plan on trading.
Which makes no sense. Think about how much better they would have been if they got rid of Arenado for anything. You know, they traded Blackmon away. Trevor Story. Ezekiel Tovar could still fetch some value, right?
Call Quantrill.
Yeah. He's been DFA'd how many times? It's just complete ineptitude by ownership, front office, and quite frankly, even the fans are still showing up at this point. Like, what are you doing just showing up there?
I mean, what a ticket's got to be $2.
Yeah, but like you're making it seem like it's okay, and the Pirate fans are the same way.
It's okay for that price.
Like all Skeens will be gone before arbitration is up at this rate. The Pirates don't keep players. The Rockies will keep a guy who they should trade because they don't have enough good players. They don't have 5 wins yet, and we're almost in May.
Yeah, again, this is what we said about the White Sox. They didn't really do it. They are playing better baseball this year, but
The
if
Dodgers
there's
had
ever,
5
White
wins
Sox
before
have 7
April
wins.
started.
if there is ever a time to blow it up and just restart, it is probably when you're on pace for less than 25 wins in a full 162 game season. Like at that point, you might as well just play all the young kids you have.
Zach Veen should be playing all the time. Donder should be pitching until his arm falls off.
Like, what's the worst that happens? You lose all the games? Like, you're already losing?
Just think about it. The Dodgers had 5 wins before April started. And it's almost May, and the Rockies don't even have 5 yet.
Yep.
Tyler Glasnow, though, of the Dodgers, is made out of glass now. He's hurt again.
Now?
In the last 2 years, going back to his time with the Rays.
Oh, okay. I thought you were saying it like it just started.
No, I was trying to make a joke. Thank you for letting it.
I like the joke. That was a
Thank
good
you,
joke.
thank you.
I liked it.
Right shoulder discomfort. He's been trying to figure it out. I feel like the Dodgers are the perfect setting for this type of player, though, because they are so deep in pitching that they can have a Cy Young caliber arm just languish for 2-3 years.
Just wait for the playoffs.
Just waiting. But it's just an embarrassment of riches. They've kind of fallen on some hard times right now, the Dodgers. But I don't think anybody's too worried about how they're going to turn out.
No. You know, I'm sure Glasnow will get ample time to rest, and I'm sure he'll be back for the playoffs, and he'll pitch a nice shutout, 6 innings against one of the teams that the NL guys on this podcast, like whether it's the Phillies or Mets, and we'll be like, of course, Glasnow, who missed 3.5 months this year, comes back and pitches a shutout.
Now let's try to talk about our teams a little bit, because I want to know what's going on in Philadelphia. They're 2-3.
So does
Our
John.
last episode. They're 2-3 since our last episode. 0-2 versus the Mets since we last talked. 2-1 versus the Cubs, which is a good stretch, but not scoring much runs.
No, like Dylan was saying earlier, the offense is kind of on a little cold streak there. I mean, no one's really hitting. I mean, you have a few guys hitting, but they never seem to all be hitting at the same time. Like you'll have 2 or 3 guys hitting, and then they stop hitting, and everyone else, they don't get cohesively on a streak together. And even then, they just have not been hitting great this year. I mean, the only positive thing from the thing is, I guess, Nola got his first win finally, so I'm happy about that. I mean, pitching starting to look a little better. I mean, Romano actually got a save the other day in extra innings, so like, I was ecstatic about that. That's like, finally did some. So hopefully, like their pitching, hopefully, like the relief pitching and starting pitching, all that starting to take a turn now, and it's going to stay good now for a while. They just need the hitting to get hot, especially Harper. Harper needs to.
Well, the lineup has not been producing what they're supposed to. In the NL, this is their ninth in terms of runs scored. With this lineup and the way that this team has produced over the last few years, you for sure expect this team to be in the top 5 in that category. The team has been striking out a ton. JT Realmuto, 29 strikeouts now on the year, so he is kind of losing a step as a hitter. Still a great defensive catcher, but production is being lost there. Bryce Harper, your best player, hasn't been producing as of late. The team's surviving, and as some pieces are falling, some pieces are coming together. Like John said, Nola gets his first win, the bullpen looking a little better. It's all about putting it together for the Phillies, and I still believe in the talent on this team. You don't win the World Series in April. You win it in October or November, depending on how long the series goes, but you certainly set the foundation in these months, and the Phillies have done some good things, but they don't look like a true World Series contender as things currently stand.
Honestly, the biggest thing is they leave so many runners on base. So many. Like, I think they'll do like 10 guys on base a game.
Yeah,
Like, they
situational
get
hitting.
hits, they just can't get them in. I'm trying to find like how many they
it's
left.
honestly very reminiscent of the Mets last season. To start the year, they couldn't buy a hit with runners on. They couldn't find a hole. Like, did not matter. Feels like the opposite. It almost feels like the Mets and Phillies have swapped spots. Don't be surprised. I mean, I know the Phillies obviously not as bad as the Mets were at this point, but don't be surprised if you see, the Phillies just go on a very long win streak, because it's baseball. Eventually, the hits are going to come. These guys are too good.
Ben, you watched the Phillies firsthand against the Mets last week. What did you see out of them?
I mean, as much as, I would like to bash the Phillies, I really, have said it a lot over the last week. The Mets pitching lab really knows what they're doing. They really do. The fact that a guy like Griffin Canning, who, by the way, went out and threw another 5 scoreless today, the fact that he can go out there and, I mean, this guy went from having the 3rd highest ERA among qualified pitchers last year. He's been an absolute revelation. He's been great for them. A lot of pitchers for the Mets have made turnarounds like this. So I don't want to just completely bash the Phillies, but completely off balance, not good plate discipline whatsoever. Harper is a guy that needs to get going, but really, for the Phillies, just the power is not there. The power is not there. 2 home runs in the last week, not good enough. And I mean, really, when you have the likes of a Schwarber, a Trey Turner, a Bryce Harper, and Nick Castellanos, like, you guys are like, you play in Citizens Bank Park, your team is going to rely on home runs, and the Phillies just have not had the power so far. So hopefully for them, as it warms up, the Phillies should get going again. Schwarber is historically a June player. Don't be surprised if June is the Phillies' best month.
Yeah, I mean, the Phillies are 23rd in slugging and 25th in home runs in the league. That's just not going to cut it at this point in time. You need that offense to produce at a high level.
Especially when you play in
averaging
Citizens Bank
16.
Park,
Okay.
you're going to give up a lot of home runs in that stadium.
But you should be hitting some more too, though.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. But that's my
the
point. Like, you need to be better than 25th when you play in a ballpark like that.
Now, let's kind of move this towards the Mets, who you equated them as kind of like they flip-flop from where they were last year. Mets 3-2 in their 5 games since our last episode, not counting today's rout. 2-0 versus the Phillies, 1-2 versus Washington. I guess you can call it 2-2. The Mets seem to be playing as well as they have in years. Dating back to, I guess we'll call it June last year is when we want to say they really turned it on.
Yeah,
They've been
it was
playing.
June. I believe like June 6th was when Grimace threw out the pitch. But yeah, it really is a level of winning that I haven't seen since 2022. When the Mets did win 100 games that year, the fact that they collapsed late kind of sours that. But really, through the first, I'm pretty sure the Mets had like an 8 or 9 game lead at one point for the division in like June, and the Braves just slowly but surely caught them. Now, yes, this is easily the best Mets team I have seen in my lifetime. It's just hands down that good. So, really, I think since 2006 level dominance, that's when they went out and, you had Beltran, you brought in Delgado, Paul LaDuca was coming in as the big time catcher. So, yeah, it's really just that kind of feel around it. And honestly, everything just feels like a party around the Mets. Everything is just good vibes. Nothing can go wrong, even, losing 2 games to the Nationals. You're on the road, you're coming down from that high series and sweep against the Phillies. So I can understand that. They salvaged the series. They end up coming away with a split. So yeah, the vibes are just immaculate.
The Mets have been in some way the biggest surprise to me this season. Not that they're winning games, but how they're winning it. This team, the biggest question we had going in was, can the pitching produce? And not only has the pitching produced, it's been the absolute best in baseball. They have the most wins of any team from their pitchers. They have the best ERA at a 2.53. They're third in baseball in strikeouts. Lindor getting going now. Alonso's been having an MVP season. Juan Soto's kind of having a slow start to the year, and they're still the only team at 20 wins. As of the day of recording on Monday, they just put up 19 runs today. This is a World Series caliber team, and it was a team that coming into the year, I questioned, can they look that good in a regular season setting? And now we have a month sample size, and they have been the best team in baseball. You have to take them as a serious threat. Every move that they made this offseason, where they limited themselves in pitching, and we thought, are they spending money wisely? Is investing in Sean Manaea and Clay Holmes, who Manaea is not even out there producing at a high level yet. Was that a smart move? We questioned it. We said, you didn't get a big fish like Corbin Burns. That's going to really kill you. And they have proven so far that everything that they did was correct. And again, that's with Juan Soto batting 257 and not playing that great. Let him get going, and this team is going to look really, really good.
Yeah, it really, Dylan, you hit the nail on the head there. It is the pitching. The pitching has been phenomenal. The starters have been getting the job done. And like you said, without Manaea and also without Frankie Montas, who should be coming back, I'm excited to see what the Mets pitching lab and Jeremy Hefner can do with Montas.
All right, well, we have a lot. We're talking about a lot of truths here. Let's not get into fantasy land where Montas is going to be a good pitcher.
Hey, again,
I'm buying everything the Mets
you're
are
telling
doing.
me you felt very good about Griffin Canning over Frankie Montas. Come on.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. I like Griffin Canning.
Corey is a known Montas hater, by the
Him
way, and that's
Yes,
because of
and
what
I
he
know
did with
that,
his
but-
time from the Yankees.
No,
was
I
a
hated
complete
him
disaster.
before he was a Yankee. This stems way before that. I was also a big Jose Quintana hater.
Yeah,
All right, those
look
are the
at what
two guys.
Quintana did in a Mets uniform. Quintana was very good as a Met,
Nah,
which is what I
Quintana's
told you. You
Quintana and Good
bashed
don't
me.
belong together.
I don't know
Before Quintana threw an inning in a Mets jersey, Corey filleted me for saying that Quintana can contribute. And he said, you are out of your mind, high as a kite, if you think Quintana's going to contribute. What did he do? He was only one of the key members of the Mets pitching staff that pitched them to an NLCS last year. That's a key contributor.
Yeah, if I had to guess,
the Mets pitching
Montas
lab.
is a regular season innings eater, but you need guys like that still. So
Jose Quintana never had a winning record as a Mets pitcher, but
What's his career ERA as a Met?
north of 3.5,
South of 4.
somewhere in between there. Yes,
Exactly.
That's
South
solid.
of 4. That's a key contributor.
actually, I think it's actually 3.6, 3.62.
That's
I wanna say
solid, man.
That's a good ERA. That's
That's
south of
solid.
3.75. You are some piece of work, Corey.
I'm buying Griffin Canning, Luis
The
Severino.
Mets fans that were already mad at you from the Soto incident, if they hear this talk
yeah.
again,
Big Griffin Canning guy. Love the Mania move. Big Severino guy last year. Montas just isn't it. You prepare yourselves. Just prepare yourselves. Griffin Canning's a good pitcher. Much, much better than Frankie Montas. I'll make this proclamation. The day Frankie Montas throws an inning for the Mets is the day they start to lose games until they get rid of him. It'll be a curse. The Mets will be better
it'll
off.
be the opposite of a
Frankie.
grimace.
It'll make us grimace watching them.
Anti-grimace.
The anti-grimace
You
is
notice
Frankie
how the
Montas.
Phillies have kind of been in a tailspin since they decided to have a McDonald's mascot throughout their first pitch.
That's an interesting.
They tried to copy us, and you got the reverse.
I don't
juju.
think that's what they were doing.
I blame
think
Taijuan Walker.
I think the lessons will be learned here is don't try gimmicks. Gimmicks are for the strong. The Mets are the strong.
Don't go kissing back to the Mets fans now.
I'm just telling them how it is. The Mets will start to go on in a tailspin. Their season will bomb when Montas comes back, and they will not right the ship until he's gone.
Well, Mets fans, stick around because we're about to talk about the Yankees. And if you thought Corey talked bad about your team, wait till he talks about his own.
Yankees 3-2, same record as the Mets in the last week. 1-1 versus Cleveland in that time. Lost that series 1-2. 2-1 versus Toronto. Devin Williams no longer the Yankees closer. You know, the Yankees got rid of their beard policy for this man, and he doesn't have the cojones to actually pitch well, changing a storied franchise's most controversial rule.
It's gonna sound so cliche. I do think it might be one of those he's not built for New York things. It's one thing to be really good in Milwaukee. It's another thing to play in New York in Yankee Stadium with the lights on you and all the eyes on you, and it looks like it's gotten him a little bit.
What have I been saying about Williams all season?
I know.
Ben, you want to give me that answer? What have I been saying about Devin?
Hey, you've been saying that the polar bear shook him. The polar bear ruined him.
Broke him. Broke.
I'm interested to see how he does in the setup role, though, without as much pressure on him and Weaver as the closer. Listen, if he excels in that role, at the end of the day, we'd be getting the same result: a good eighth and a good ninth. So I'm willing to live with it.
At least Weaver, can handle New York. He handled a World Series run with New York.
Yeah.
Williams, on the other hand, always a slow starter. We've noted that. Tends to pitch much better May than June, July, August. Then falters as it gets later. But he's just been so bad where he's single-handedly lost the Yankees. It feels like 5 games already.
Yeah, I mean, the Yankees pitching's been the problem.
Outside of Max Fried. We got to give Fried his flowers.
Well, Fried's the savior. Fried is, when he pitches, they're 6-0. He's 5-0 on the year with a sub-2 ERA.
He gave up 1 run in his last start, and his ERA went up.
Like, he is the ace of the staff. The problem is the staff outside of him leaves some to be desired because nobody's in their correct role. Now, Luis Heel is going to start pitching. We'll see what it's like when he comes back. Clark Schmidt, I've never been the biggest fan of. He's been getting pieced up a little bit as he's been out there. The Yankees, I say it every week when we talk about them. They have to make a move for a big-time arm at the deadline where they cannot call themselves real World Series contenders. This team, statistically, offensively, you could argue is the best offense in baseball at this point in time. You seriously could argue it. They are number 2 in all of baseball in batting average, tied for first in home runs, second in RBIs, fourth in hits. The team produces at the plate, and Aaron Judge is having one of the greatest months of baseball that we've ever seen in the history of the sport. The guy is still batting over 400 at this point, which is probably the most mind-boggling thing to me of all. We knew he had pop, but this is insane. It's 2-3 hits a night with this guy at this point in time. So the offense, I have zero worries about it. Goldschmidt's been playing really, really well. Bellinger and Jazz are off to slow starts, but not everybody could just be on fire to open up a season. The Yankees have still been pouring on runs. Volpe's had a couple big hits lately, Wells as well, so the young guys are getting some play. They will be fine. They will be competing to win this division for the entire season. But if they have a bigger aspiration of winning a World Series, you have to bring somebody in to pitch at least as your 2 in a playoff series. Rodon's had some back-to-back solid starts. I love him as a 3. He's okay as a 2. But without Garrett Cole, that 3-headed monster, it's lacking. You wanted Rodon at 3, you wanted Fried at 2, and Cole at 1, and you were ecstatic. And then whenever you got at a heel, Schmidt, whoever, was great. Now you're missing a guy, and it really is going to hold them back.
How worried are you about Bellinger and Jazz? Like, truly.
I'm not at this point in time. I think that there's some question marks about the lineup and where guys need to be. But I do think that ultimately, some guys are hot, some guys are cold. At the end of the day, they do have 2 of the worst batting averages in the entire league at this point in terms of just general at bats. Jazz is batting 178, Bellinger's 191, but Jazz, I think, will figure it out because when he does hit the ball, he does a pretty good job. He has 7 homers, still batting 178. So if he could just bump himself up to 240, 250, like, he'll be producing at a very, very high level. And Bellinger's been a pretty consistently good hitter for the last few years. So I'd like to think it's just a slump, but at the end of the day, maybe it's not. But they have guys that are producing. Stanton will be back soon enough. And I think when he comes back, the lineup will feel more in place.
I agree. The lineup does feel like it's missing Stanton.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I've been a big Stanton guy. Even through his struggles, I've kind of been on his case. I've been on his side with it. I'm worried about Jazz because I think if the Yankees were playing poorly, if they're playing the same level Baltimore is, struggling, 10 wins at this point, he'd be getting the Joey Gallo treatment. Like, he wouldn't be able to leave his house without hearing something.
I don't think it'd be that bad. I think I guess it'd be, what are you expecting out of Jazz Chisholm? I think a year following Juan Soto leaving, it's tough because he kind of felt like that next man up, but he was never going to be able to replicate what Soto did. I think he's been solid in the field, and he's just been such a savior at second base. Just having an average fielder at the position has been such a breath of fresh air. And again, when he does hit the ball, he's got 7 home runs right now at this point in time. So when he gets bat on ball, he is hitting the ball well. It's just a matter of limiting the strikeouts and putting more balls in play. But I think that it could just be a bad month. The way that Aaron Judge is having a great month, Jazz is having a bad one, and things could certainly even themselves out. He also has kind of been well known to not be a cold weather player. This is April in New York. He didn't experience that last year. He came over in the summer. So I expect as the weather gets better, Jazz Chisholm to start playing better as we get into May and June. Maybe even makes an all-star push with, again, the pop that he has right now. I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, I mean, I want to believe in Jazz.
I believe in Jazz more than Bellinger to bounce back hitting-wise at this point.
See, I'm flipped. I believe in Bellinger more because Bellinger's been a more consistent player. Jazz, on the other hand, has had his injury issues, has been a very streaky guy his whole career. And I just don't know how much of it's the cold, how much of it is him changing his approach.
If we start to see him producing more towards the end of May, early June, when it gets hotter, I am going to have concerns about if he could play playoff baseball.
Right.
Because That's where it's really going to kill you. You
And he
talked about the
struggled last year.
Gallo. You talked about the Gallo treatment. That's when it'll come if he can't perform in October. Because last year he came over and we threw him at third, and he wasn't like Soto was in the lineup producing. So everybody kind of looked at him like, thank God we got this guy that can play third. Whatever he gives us at the plate is great. Now his offensive role is probably going to go up. I'd imagine when Stanton's back, this guy, Aaron Boone, would like to have him bat second or fifth. Would like to. Can he get there? I doubt it. At this
He's
point in time.
lucky that Ben Rice is performing at the level Ben Rice is.
Yeah. Ben Rice has been what we needed Jazz to be.
Right. Now, moving towards our studs and duds, I'm going to take the Rockies outfielder Jordan Beck. 6 games in the last week, 18 at-bats, 7 hits, 5 of them home runs, 6 RBIs. 389 batting average, a 1.677 OPS. For a guy that I'm sure not many people listening or even in this room have really heard of, because, again, the Rockies have 4 wins. Why would you pay attention to them? He's been balling out. On the flip side, my dud is a former Rocky and Trevor Story, the Red Sox shortstop. 6 games, 25 at-bats, 1 hit, 1 RBI, 11 strikeouts. He's walked 3 times. A 183 OPS. That's good for a .040 batting average in the last week. For a Red Sox team who I was very high on, this isn't cutting it from one of their top players.
No, for sure not. My stud, we talked about him a little bit, Max Fried. He's 1-0 last week, had that great performance. The no-hitter that was just kind of missed the last week, but he's just been performing so well this season that I wanted to give him some kudos. 5-0 now on the year with a 1.43 ERA. The guy has been absolutely shoving every time he's on the mound. My dud, Luis Robert, in the last week, 7 for 27 with 14 strikeouts. That is 2 strikeouts a game for a week. I get it. You play for the White Sox. The motivation may not be there, but this is the time of year where you build up your trade value, Robert. You can get yourself free from that team, but you have to play better to do it.
Yeah, for me, my stud, I'm going with drawing a blank here for a second, guys. My
Trevor
bad.
Larnach.
But yeah, Trevor Larnach, going with him for my stud. He had a really solid week, good on the RBIs. Sorry, my computer a little slow here. 9 RBIs, tied for second on the week behind just Brandon Nimmo of the Mets, who had 2 home runs, a phenomenal week of his own with 11 RBIs. But Trevor Larnach in Minnesota, a team with expectations, trying to make some things happen. He's producing offensively. On the other side, my dud. As a whole, I wanted to go with the Phillies offense because of the lack of power from them. It's the reason why their team hasn't been getting the wins that they need. This is a team that is going to bruise you with their lineup. That's the expectation. The starting pitching is supposed to be really good, and it has been. But if I'm going to single someone out, let's go with the best player in Bryce Harper. 20 at-bats, just 2 hits. He did work 3 walks, but 6 strikeouts, a 100 batting average, and a 367 OPS. Just not what you need out of Bryce Harper.
Yeah, Bryce Harper definitely needs to do a lot more, considering like he's kind of the heart of the team there. My stud this week is going to be Houston Astros pitcher Hunter Brown, who had a really hot start last season, kind of fizzled out towards the end, but as he's back to the hot start this season, this past week, he pitched 13 innings, 2 wins, only gave up 9 hits, 1 earned run, 2 walks, 18 strikeouts. So, and 2 quality starts, and he has a 1.22 ERA on the season with a .89 WHIP. So, like, pitching really, really well. So, I wonder if it's going to be a question if he can keep that up this year, or if he's going to fizzle out again like he did last year. Now, my dud this week is it hurts me a little bit here because the team here. My I Baltimore Orioles, Heston Kjerstad, 1 for 20 with 10 strikeouts. Like this is not what they need. Way more. And I think this just kind of shows the bigger problem with the Orioles. It's like all their young players are just not producing anymore. And I guess like the veteran players that they had that were producing aren't there anymore. So hopefully, he starts to figure it out and the rest of the, young Orioles players figure it out too.
Now, moment of the week. I'm kind of take a bit of a victory lap. My rookie of the year pick was Augustin Ramirez, the Marlins catcher, who just debuted. And I don't know if you guys have seen this. He's the best catcher in baseball. Off to a big start. He's locked in. I'm going to take a victory lap. I won this. He's going to be the rookie of the year. 19 at bats to start. He's got 9 hits, 2 walks, 2 strikeouts, 1 stolen base. He hit 3 home runs, 5 RBIs. He's hitting .474, a 1.682 OPS to start off your major league career. Now, I wonder how the Marlins got this guy. Anybody remember how? Oh, wait, the Yankees traded away Augustin Ramirez for Jazz Chisholm.
Yeah, because Austin Wells is just so bad for the Yankees right now that we are in desperate need of a catcher.
You can't have too much depth.
Yeah, you can. How about our second baseman? This was a setup. This was a setup from the Yankee segment. The second you were saying I don't believe in Jazz, this was all a setup for your moment of the week. You're not fooling me. You're not fooling anyone. My highlight of the week, what should have been everybody's highlight of the week, and I'm guessing it would have been if I didn't put in my pick first. Eugenio Suarez, 4 home runs in a single game. We almost saw it earlier this year with Aaron Judge. We see it here with Suarez. More rare than the perfect game statistically. 4 perfect at-bats in a game that the Diamondbacks needed all of Suarez's production. He gave it to them. A hell of a game for Eugenio Suarez.
He's the first player to hit 4 home runs in 4 consecutive at-bats and still lose.
Yeah, brutal outcome for him. He did all he could. Don't hang your head low.
The definition of I did my part. And for my moment of the week, it's going to be sweeping the Phils. Something that the Mets had done really from 2015 to about 2022 was dominate the Phillies. The Mets really did dominate that season series for a very good stretch. Even when the Mets weren't great, they still were winning a lot of games against the Phillies. The last couple years, it tapered a little bit, but towards the end, the Mets started winning. You win a playoff series and then start the year with a sweep of the Phillies at home. Fantastic feeling. That is my moment of the week. Dylan, I know the 4 home runs is great, but nothing was going to top a sweep of your division rival. The next up are the Braves.
Well, now for a better moment of the week. The Rangers were playing the Giants. It was tied in the 9th inning. Elliot Ramos is up, kind of hits an infield, kind of hits a little infield hit there to the third baseman. Misses. He gets to first, throwing error from the first baseman, gets to second, goes to third, and then scores at home. And it basically has a little league, home run there to walk the game off.
That was so much fun to watch.
It's crazy. I don't even know. They should just stop throwing. They just they made it worse every time they tried to throw them out.
It's just a disaster to have.
It just
that
got
happen
worse.
As an MLB
worse.
team, I know that baseball over 162, so much can happen. So many little things can go wrong. That is just an objective disaster to let happen.
Because it should have been a sure
were
out.
In the stands yelling, "Just eat it," because that's what a little league game would have been.
Oh yeah.
Because it should have been a sure out anyway to start with. It should have been a sure out, and then.
What do you think's going through the pitcher's mind as he gives up a dribbler that doesn't even make it to the pitcher's mound, and that ends in a home run?
Not only a home run, a walk-off home run.
That's just, embarrassing. Just get me the ball back, ease it up. Come on, let me get the next guy. But no, ball that barely made it, past the pitcher, ended up
At
losing them
least
the
it
game.
was an away game for him.
Imagine doing that in front of your home crowd.
Yeah, as I said, like that'd be like you wouldn't. You'd have to like you'd have to get traded. You'd be out. You would never be able to show your face in that stadium again.
Now, any other moments that you guys want to note?
Oh yeah, we should talk about the what about the triple play? That wasn't a triple play in the Mets game.
Run us through it. Break it down for us, John.
I have to think. Well, I think it was like I have to remember because I don't remember like thing. I think I don't know who hit the ball. The ball was hit to the third baseman and it bounced just before it hit the glove. But they said called it an out, and then they got the by. I don't even remember what happened exactly, but they throw it to second, got him out of second, got him out at first, and the play wasn't reviewable, and it was like clearly like not an out. Like it clearly was not a triple play at all.
Now, if you Google Mets Phillies triple play, trying to figure it out, the Google AI overview says this. The Mets and Phillies had a triple play in a recent game on April 25th, 2025, where the Washington Nationals turned a controversial triple play against the Mets, leading to a walk-off win. Now, that would be controversial if the Nationals ended up turning a triple play against the Mets in a game versus the Phillies.
My brain hurts. Like, what did you just? What did you just?
AI.
Gotta love AI.
That's so bad.
The future.
But like, is there a problem with MLB with them not being able to review like very simple, clean, like just like plays that would take like less than a minute to just
let's
be
not
like,
even talk about reviews because the NBA playoffs has absolutely ruined it. They pulled out the AC 130 MW2 camera to catch LeBron slapping the wrist of Anthony Edwards on a play that wasn't even initially called a foul, but somehow was retroactively called one, and just review has become the worst possible thing in sports.
well, that's
No matter
not how
what,
you should use
no
review.
matter what baseball does, no matter what the NFL does, nothing will be worse than the NBA review policies, where now new fouls can be called that we found from the sky.
That's
You
really
can't do
bad.
that.
That's really bad. Like really, really bad.
Did I mention it was a 1-point game with 10 seconds to go in the fourth quarter, and that foul sent Anthony Edwards to the free throw line to make it a 3-point game instead of a 1-point game.
That's real.
Embarrassment.
That's horrendous.
Yeah.
But that Mets Nationals triple play that did not involve the Phillies, part of a very, fun weekend in that series. One that saw the Mets blow a big lead, the one that saw the Mets come back from down a lot, and then, take over. That triple play that wasn't or shouldn't have been. A lot of fun stuff for a young up-and-coming team like the Nationals. And I don't know, those are the type of games that make baseball fun because over 162, you find those weird ones that have things that, you've just never seen before. We spoke about Judge's foul ball that, that really should have been a home run.
I'm mad about it again.
I just want Judge at the end of his career to sue Major League Baseball for that one home run. Give it back to me.
I just don't even know what they watched on the review.
Or even that Mets Nationals triple play, something like that should be reviewed.
Yeah.
Why have it if you're not going to?
Well, baseball's the easiest thing to review. Just do it in between innings. Like, there's so much downtime in baseball.
But then again, like, you can't, add points back in. You can't add runs. You can't say, oh, wait, the innings that.
No. I know. I'm just like, baseball's like one of the easier ones to review because it's not a hindrance to the game to have the downtime because the fans are kind of used to it.
I like the downtime. I like, spending 3.5 hours at a ballpark. You can actually wait online and get food without having to worry about missing a third of the game.
Yeah.
Yep.
But, what games this week are you guys looking forward to?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to an AL West rivalry series that will be the Mariners versus the Rangers. These two teams are jockeying for position to lead the AL West at this point in time. The Mariners, you know, they fooled me so many times. I'm not willing to just buy in because they're leading the division at the end of April. But they are 7-3 in their last 10. The Rangers are 4-6 in their last 10. We know that the Mariners have really been producing runs at a high level, and the Rangers haven't been lately. So I'm interested to see if the Mariners can build the gap for an early season NL West lead, or the Rangers can get hot at the right time and close that gap and potentially even take the lead for the division back.
What about you, John? What series you looking forward to?
I got a little NL Central battle going on here with the Cubs at the Brewers here. Cubs are in first, Brewers are in third, I believe. They're 3 games behind. So this can be a chance for the, Brewers can get some games up there and, try and get back in the first place, where I feel like they've pretty much been like for a while now. Like they've been like, I think like the clear cut first place team in the NL Central for how many seasons now? And it's like, now it seems like they're starting to, lose their grip there a little bit. So we'll see if the Cubs, extend their lead there or the Brewers close it.
For me, I'm looking forward to keeping that Cub train rolling. Their next series, San Fran at the Cubs, two teams that we really think are going to be in the thick of it. San Fran obviously leading their division at the moment. Same with the Cubs. Cubs 17-12, Giants 19-10. Battle of first place teams, two teams that, when you think about World Series contenders in the National League, they're on that tier below the actual World Series contenders of the Mets and Dodgers. They're probably even a little lower than the Padres, I would say. But right now, they're the ones leading the race. And I think that's going to be a really fun series to watch early next week, just to see how an early season October feels going to have.
Yeah, speaking of early season October, two teams that might not make October because of how stacked the National League is, but they met in the NLCS a couple years ago, the Phillies and Diamondbacks. Always exciting to see these two teams meet. I'm expecting the Phillies offense to wake up. I'm expecting some very good games between the Diamondbacks and the Phillies.
Well, that'll do it here for us. We'll be back at it next week. It'll be May baseball when the weather warms up, and hopefully a lot of the players' bats we've discussed that just haven't done it. Between Chisholm, Bellinger, Harper, really the whole Phillies team, even Soto still isn't playing to a Soto level. May hopefully bring some power.
Will the Rockies get 5 wins?
All right, John, we're being realistic here. Will the Rockies get 5 wins?
In the month of May, or just get up to 5 wins?
Just get up the.
It's going to be an uphill battle. But that'll do it here. Corey, Jason, Dylan, Mel, John Pauline, Ben Mandel, signing off for the Outsider Sports Baseball Podcast.